A friend of mine, he just said to me, you know what, Sam, I want to buy an electric van. What is there? I've got a Kia Carnival. It's kind of old school. It's internal combustion. It's actually a diesel-powered Kia Carnival. But I want an electric MPV. What is there? What are the best versions? What are the best options? What should I consider buying? He's not wanting to buy it tomorrow, but he's wanting to buy one within the next year to year and a half. And that got me thinking, what are the best electric MPVs, the best electric vans in the world? Well, guys, in the United States, you guys can't buy any of them, except you might be able to buy Volvo's version of basically the Zeekr 009, the Volvo EX90. That's actually pretty good. That's something you guys in the United States are likely to get. But other than that, all of these vehicles won't be available in America, but they will be available in many other countries. Here are my top 5 best electric MPVs in the world. Hello, my friends. Welcome to the channel. I'm Sam Evans. You're watching the Electric Viking. Great to have you with us. If you've got an EV, really the smart thing to do is to charge it on solar. And then it's a great feeling. It feels amazing to just drive every day and know it's absolutely 100% free. So if you were looking for a solar company here in Australia to get your solar panels, I recommend Resync Solar. They did my system for me. I don't get, by the way, just to confirm, I don't get paid for saying this. I've had a great experience with them. I highly recommend them. So I'll put a link in the description below. Car News China published an article, and this is the top 10 most expensive MPVs in China. But these are all electric, right? You can get cheaper or more expensive. For example, Toyota's van, it's more expensive than most of these. It's a bucket of junk. It's so old school and so bad that people in China joke about it, but a lot of people still buy them for some reason. Lexus, their van as well, that's expensive. Anyway, obviously Lexus and Toyota, their vans in China are very old school, and you can get in a brand new one and still think it's from 10 years ago. That's totally honestly, that is exactly how it feels. They're underpowered, they're all really quite ugly looking. But here's the thing, Toyota and Lexus, they used to have a massive kind of monopoly on the MPV market, but that is changing. If you start to have a look at these sales numbers here, a lot of customers are saying, why would I buy one of those for more money than these are in many cases when these are so much better? And they're right. So here are the top 10 most expensive EVs or MPVs in China, but I'm going to give you what I think are the best ones. The 10th most expensive was the Maxus MIFA 9. You can buy the Maxus MIFA 9 now in countries in Europe. You can buy them in Australia. I think you can also buy it in Thailand. I think it's okay. I wouldn't put it in my top 5, but maybe 6th or 7th. It's not too bad. The Maxus MIFA 9 made by SAIC, who own MG. This is basically, you could call it an MG if you wanted to, because it is branded an MG in other countries. It starts at $34,800 US. So it's actually cheaper than the new Tesla Model Y to buy one of these. It's pretty good. It's a pretty good deal, you have to say. But they barely sell any. People don't buy them. In China, they sold 2,610 in total for all of 2024, which means it's not selling at all. Well, it's 5,270 millimeters long. And there's 2 options. There's a plug-in hybrid version and a fully electric version. The fully electric version has 2 options, a 77 kilowatt hour battery and a 90 kilowatt hour battery. And for the 77 kilowatt hour battery, it has 480 kilometers of CLTC range, so about 400 kilometers WLTP, and 560 kilometers of CLTC range for the 90 kilowatt hour battery. That's going to be about 450 kilometers of WLTP. Next, 9th place, the 9th most expensive MPV is the Voyah 80. Now, the Voyah 80 costs $43,550. It's basically a Great Wall Motors MPV. This is actually, I believe, 2 options. There's a plug-in hybrid and there's a fully electric version. It's not all that popular, to be honest, in China. They sold 5,633 for the entire year. So we won't focus on that too much. The Hycan V09. Hycan, I believe, are going to be bankrupt pretty soon, it looks like. Anyhow, Hycan sold 753 of the Hycan V09. And, well, it's probably considered one of the more budget electric SUVs. The price starts at $44,000 US. I definitely don't recommend this. There's much better options you can buy where the companies are not likely to go bankrupt. Anyhow, You can get it with front wheel drive or all-wheel drive, and it has a 95.2 kilowatt hour LFP battery, which provides 620 kilometers of CLTC range, about 500 kilometers WLTP. Another option is a 114 kilowatt hour battery, which gives it 762 kilometers of CLTC range, WLTP probably around 650. So pretty good range, right? There's quite a few EVs, MPVs in China that you can get that are big like this, bigger than a Kia Carnival, in fact, that have probably real world 600 plus kilometers of range. That's pretty cool. GSE's Trump E9. Now, this is a plug-in hybrid. Last year, they sold 12,409 of these. So, not bad numbers, but not great considering some of the sales numbers of the vehicles I'm about to share with you. One car that was very popular in China, an MPV, is the Voyah Dream. Dongfeng. I've actually owned a Dongfeng EV. It wasn't officially allowed to be legally driven in Australia. I was going to use it as a battery backup. But anyhow, I sold it. Dongfeng, the Voyah Dream minivan, starts at $45,000 US. And Voyah sold 55,117. Pretty good sales numbers. It's big. It's 5,315 millimeters long. So it's nearly as long as a Ford Ranger. Now, there's a plug-in hybrid version, but I believe there's also a fully electric version. The fully electric version has a 108.7 kilowatt hour NMC lithium battery, and it has 650 kilometers of CLTC range. So probably about 540 kilometers WLTP. All right, now we're getting into the actual cars. If I was in the market, I would consider these. In fact, 4 of these 5 I would consider buying. I'm going to tell you my favorite as well, really, which are the best here. Fifth most expensive electric MPV in China is the Denza D9. Denza, of course, is a brand owned by BYD. Used to be a joint venture partnership between BYD and Mercedes-Benz, but Denza have taken over the brand. The D9 is the best-selling MPV in China in 2024. Price is pretty good value. I think it starts at $46,900 US. It's slightly smaller than some of the other vehicles I mentioned. It's 5.25 meters long, but it's still a pretty big vehicle. The wheelbase is 3.1 meters long, so it's going to be big on the inside. Now, there is 2 versions, a plug-in hybrid version and a fully electric version. The plug-in hybrid has a 40 kilowatt hour LFP battery, so that's a pretty big battery. It's going to get around 150 kilometers of WLTP range before you need to start using that motor to recharge the battery. The all-electric version has a 103 kilowatt hour lithium iron phosphate blade battery that provides about 500 kilometers of WLTP range. So, big seller of this vehicle. They actually sold 103,000 of these in China last year, 103,000. Next, the Hongqi HQ9 plug-in hybrid. Hongqi are kind of considered a premium brand in China, but they only sold 2,758 of these plug-in hybrids. And let's not focus on that one. It's not really that relevant. It only has about 50 kilometers of electric-only range. Here's probably what I think are the top 3 best electric MPVs you can buy in China. And these are listed in terms of price, not by how good they are. The 3rd most expensive electric MPV you can buy in China starts at $49,600 US. And I think it's an absolute bargain for that price. I mean, they're really nice, these cars. Xpeng sold 21,608 of these. Personally, I like BYD's Denza D9. The Denza D9s are nice, but I think the Xpeng X9 is even better. And I think it's worth paying. Well, to be honest, they're about the same price. So the Xpeng X9 is what I would be getting if it was a choice between those 2. Now, the X9 actually has some of the coolest seats, the rear seats in the back, the very back seats, so basically the 3rd row seats, they fold back into the floor completely flat. So you wouldn't even know they're there. If the seats were folded into the floor before you got in the car, you would never know the seats are there, but they do it electrically. Really, really cool feature. I absolutely love it. Massive boot space as well. It's about 5.3 meters long. So it's a little bit longer than Denza D9. Now you can get front-wheel drive now you can get rear-wheel drive or all-wheel drive. The smallest battery option is an 84.5 kilowatt-hour LFP battery from CALB. It gives around 500 kilometers of WLTP range. But you can get an NMC battery that comes from CALB as well. That is a 101.5 kilowatt-hour battery, and it gives it about 600 kilometers of WLTP range. Plenty of range. I actually really want this car. There's a four-wheel drive version, has a bit less range. It's about 540 kilometers of range for the four-wheel drive version using the 101.5 kilowatt hour battery. The second most expensive electric MPV in China, or MPV in China, is the Zeekr 009. So Zeekr is owned by, well, it's under the Geely parent group. You can invest in Zeekr now if you want to. They are listed on the US stock exchange. Starting price, it's the cheapest version is a lot more expensive than the cheapest Xpeng X9. It starts at $60,500 US. So yeah, a bit more expensive. This is definitely marketed as a luxury car. I think, to be honest, both the Xpeng X9 and the Zeekr 009 are definitely luxury cars. I've sat in them both. I've driven in them both. They're really nice. Last year, Zeekr sold 22,600 of these in China alone. This is going to be a global car, though, by the way. So if you want to buy this, the Xpeng X9 and the Zeekr 009, they're going global. Many, many countries around the world will have these cars for sale. You can buy either of them. You can already buy the Zeekr 009 here in Australia. Last year, Zeekr sold 22,600 of these, meaning about the same sales as Xpeng, as the X9. Pretty similar numbers. How big is it? It's a little bit smaller than Xpeng's X9. It's 5.2 meters long. It comes with an option of 4 seats, 2 in the front, 2 in the back. And that's the luxury version of this car, which I believe is about $150,000, which is just way nicer than any Rolls Royce you're ever going to sit in. Really amazing. But there's also 6, 7 seat options as well. Now, there's in addition a rear-wheel drive version and a four-wheel drive version. The 108 kilowatt hour battery pack gives the car around about 620 kilometers of WLTP range. So pretty damn good range, you have to say. Plus, the all-wheel drive version of this car has 580 kilowatt or 780 horsepower. You can do 0 to 100 in 3.9 seconds. I've driven that car, by the way, in China on a racetrack, and it's amazing on a racetrack. The Zeekr 009 also comes with a bigger battery if you want that. You can pay extra. You get a 140 kilowatt hour battery, and that vehicle has probably about 780 kilometers of WLTP range, a massive range. But the smaller battery options have an 800 volt platform, so they enable probably charging the battery possibly up to 600 kilowatt charging speeds, really fast. But the bigger battery has a 400 volt platform, so it will charge a fair bit slower. Number one, most expensive electric car in China. It's not selling that well as a result, but it is very impressive, is the Li Auto Mega. The Li Auto Mega was on sale all of 2024, but they only delivered 10,800 in total. Now, it starts at $73,000 US, and it comes with a 102.7 kilowatt hour battery. That's an NMC ternary battery that provides around 600 kilometers of WLTP range as well. Now, it's 5.35 meters long, so it's sort of in between in terms of size between the Xpeng X9 and the Zeekr 009. It has 400 kilowatt as standard and comes with 536 horsepower. So it's not actually the most expensive version. I mean, for example, the Zeekr 009, the 4-seat version is, it's about twice the price of this, but there's only really one option available here. And that it means that you've got no choice. You only get really 4-wheel drive and 400 kilowatt, 536 horsepower. So actually considering the fact it's 4-wheel drive and it's getting that amount of range, about 600 kilometers of range, it is the most efficient of these cars here in this list. One of the reasons why it's not very good looking, it looks a bit ugly and people don't like it. They call it the coffin car in China because it looks a little bit like a coffin. One of the reasons why it looks like that is because Li Auto spent so much time working on the aerodynamics of this vehicle. So if you see other cars and they say aerodynamics are really great, well, actually, this is the car that has aerodynamics that make it really very, very good in terms of slippery, slicing through the air. And that's why it looks like this. And that's why it's not a popular seller. But it is a good car. It's really, really good. Out of these, my favorite vehicles, this is not one of them. It's just because of the looks. I think looks for a car do matter. And I wouldn't really want to be looking at this car every day. I think it's fantastic. Very practical. Just doesn't look good. So that's not in my top 3. My top 3 are, number 1, the Xpeng X9. Just based on value, I think it's the best of these 3 cars. And as standard, it comes with a lot of very, very high level of standard specification. In second place, the Zeekr 009. The 009 is definitely a luxury car. It's phenomenal value for what you're getting for your money. And I would prefer the Zeekr 009 or an Xpeng X9 over probably any car that BMW, Mercedes, or Audi make currently. That's my personal preference. In third place, I have the Denza D9. The Denza D9 is a great car as well. I think it's actually really good. Charging speed is much slower though than the Xpeng X9 and the Zeekr 009. And let's be honest, it looks a bit old school. It sort of looks like a traditional internal combustion MPV. That grille does make it look like it's an internal combustion. So that's probably the key reason one of the reasons why I prefer the other two. Anyhow, these two cars, the Zeekr 009 and the Xpeng X9, both of them phenomenal electric vans, and having driven them both, I highly recommend them. In fact, for me, they're kind of dream cars, which sounds weird. Dream car, MPV, who would have thought?